Konnichiwa, or hello friends. My name is Arianna, and my Genius Hour project is about the country of Japan. So get ready to take a trip with me as we learn and explore about it. Let's go! First, where is Japan? Japan is an archipelago, or string of islands on the eastern edge of Asia. There are 4 main islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. There are also nearly 4,000 smaller islands. Japan's nearest mainland neighbors are the Siberian region of Russia in the north and Korea and China farther south. Tokyo serves as the capital and largest city of Japan. Almost 4/5 of Japan is covered with mountains. The Japanese Alps runs down the center of the largest island, Honshu. The highest peak is Mount Fuji, a cone-shaped volcano considered sacred by many Japanese. More than 1,000 earthquakes hit Japan every year. Japan also has about 200 volcanoes, 60 of which are active. Some of the most famous national symbols, the green pheasant, cherry blossom, Japanese koi-fish, and the sundial, which you can see in the Japanese flag. Ta-da! The flag symbolizes the sun, which rises over the sea, and the color white symbolizes purity and honesty. That's why it's known as the land of the rising sun. A society called the Yomon culture arose about 12,000 years ago, around the same time that Ainu people arrived by boat from Siberia. The Yomon and Ainu survived for thousands of years, hunting, fishing, and gathering plants. In 300 BC, the Yayoi people came to Honshu Island from Korea and China. They were skilled weavers, toolmakers, and farmers who began cultivating rice and flooded paddy fields. In 660 BC, Japan's first emperor, Jimmu Tenno, came to power. Emperors controlled Japan until the 12th century AD, when military rulers called shoguns took control and ruled by might. Europeans first arrived in Japan in 1543. Bringing guns and Christianity. In 1635, the ruling shogun closed Japan to foreigners and forbade Japanese to travel abroad. This isolation lasted more than 200 years. In 1868, the shoguns were overthrown and emperors returned. This was a time of great change and modernization for Japan. During World War I, Japan fought on the side of the U.S., but on December 7, 1941, Japan bombed the United States Navy fleet at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and the U.S. entered World War II. From 1941 to 1945, Japan's military leaders fought against the U.S. and the Allied forces. In August 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing about 115,000 people. Japan surrendered a few days later. Japan is the only country in the world with a reigning emperor, with the latest one being Naruhito. Emperors have no real power, but they are still revered as a symbol of the country's tradition and unity. It's the second largest economy in the world. Japan's high-tech industry makes some of the most popular electronic products in the world. The Japanese yen is the national currency of Japan. Nature. Oh, how I love nature. Nature is one of the most wonderful things about Japan. The Japanese people have a deep affection for the beauty of the landscape. The ancient Shinto religion says natural features like mountains, waterfalls, and forests have their own spirits, like souls. Forests cover a large part of Japan. The country's evergreen trees include pines, cypresses, hemlocks, cedars, firs, and spruces. Bamboo and palms grow in southern and central Japan. Cherry blossom trees are known as symbols of Japan, and the flower blooms for only 2 weeks. The Japanese plant them throughout the country. There's also the art of growing bonsai trees. So many animals live in the forest mountains. Mammals include bears, fox, deer, wild boar, antelope, hares, and wild monkeys. The seas are home to whales, dolphins, porpoises, and a wide variety of fish. The raising of goldfish and colorful carp is a Japanese specialty. But with so many people living in Japan, wildlife has suffered. Pollution is now tightly controlled, but road building and other human activities have harmed natural habitats. Around 136 species in Japan are listed as endangered. Japan has almost 126 million people living there, and 37 million just in Tokyo. One of the most captivating aspects of Japan is the unique blend of ancient traditions and modern advancements. The Japanese are famous for their willingness to work very hard. Children are taught to show respect for others, especially parents and bosses. They learn to do what's best for their family or company and worry less about their own needs. Japanese food is very different from food in Western countries. There are lots of rice, fish, and vegetables, but little meat, with little fat or dairy. This diet is very healthy, which helps Japanese people live, on average, longer than any other people in the world, with 70,000 being over 100 years old. That's crazy! Some of their most famous dishes are sushi and ramen, which is made of thin noodles, tempura, which is deep-fried vegetables or meat. Make sure to use your chopsticks, though. All their food is oishii, or delicious. Oh, by the way, do you want some sake? Maybe when you're 21, though, since it's a rice wine. Cheers! The Japanese language, known as Nihongo, is spoken by around 120 million people, primarily in Japan. It belongs to the Japonic language family, which also includes Ryukyu languages and the Hachiko language. Japanese is the national language of Japan and is integral to the country's cultural identity, both within its borders and among the Japanese diaspora worldwide. Geishas are a part of the Japanese culture too. They are a type of Japanese performance artists trained in traditional Japanese dance and singing. They are distinctive of long kimonos, white makeup, and wonderful hair pieces, as you can see on my hair. Some of the favorite sports are sumo wrestling, soccer, martial arts, and their national sport, baseball. They have hosted the Olympics twice. Disneyland Tokyo is the first Disney park outside of the United States. These days, it's one of the most popular parks in the world. Anime films and television is counted as 60% of the animation entertainment in Japan. It often combines stark, colorful graphics with action-packed plots. Early anime films were intended primarily for a Japanese audience. Therefore, they use many cultural references unique to Japan. For example, the large eyes of anime characters are commonly perceived in Japan as multi-faceted windows to the soul. Much of anime is aimed at children, but is sometimes marked by adult themes and subject matter. Some of my favorites are Sailor Moon and Totoro. I also love the Hello Kitty mania, especially Cinnamon Roll. Well, that wraps up today. I hope you learned a little bit of Japan and you go put it in your bucket list to go to visit soon. I know I will. Arigato. Sayonara.